So maybe are we recording? We are. So maybe I'll kick off and say welcome everyone to this midday Muse session. I want to acknowledge that I'm joining you from Eora country. The Gadigal people are the traditional owners of this unceded land that I'm joining you from. And if you are joining from other country at the moment, then please feel free to pop that in the chat so we can wise acknowledge those spaces as well. And also acknowledging any Aboriginal colleagues, Torres Strait Islander colleagues who are with us today, and elders past, present and emerging. When I think about emerging leaders, I always think about our students and the upcoming social work generations that come behind us, and all that we do to make sure we are being better than the generations that came before. It is great to see you all here today. We love to have these sessions and these conversations because it brings together the areas of practice that we do with the education and the research that happens from the university, often in partnership with agencies that you are all working within. So it's a fantastic coming together of our community. I want to, in advance, thank everyone who is participating in the seminar today. And I will hand over to the fabulous Deanne Dale, who coordinates our seminars here, along with our committee from our social work team. But if while this session is on, you're having ideas of things that you would like to hear or speak about in the future, please always feel free to pop in the chat so that we can see if that's possible in the future. All right, Deanne, I will hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mim. Yes, as Mim said, if you've got any questions for the panel, we've got a few up our sleeve, but any that you want to add, I think Janet's keeping an eye and tracking the questions as they come up. So please feel free to add, if you like, what you're curious about. So I'm going to introduce our fabulous panel for today, just briefly, and then I'm going to ask each of them to let you know about their organisation, where they're situated, and a bit about what learning opportunities are available for students at their organisation. We'll start off with that. So we have Anna Hearn and Kathleen Clay from Barnardo's at Wollongong. We have Michelle Fraser, who's the manager of the amazing West Street Centre in the CBD of Wollongong. We have Kate Draper, who's acting social work educator at Liverpool Hospital. If you want to put a hand up, or just if you've got the little boxes, if you want to, just so people know who you are. And then we've also got Cindy Dibben, who is a senior prenatal caseworker and pregnancy family conferencing coordinator with DCJ Illawarra Shoalhaven. So thank you to those panelists. Thank you for the waves. All right, well, look, we might start, if that's okay, with Anna and Kathleen. If you'd like, to introduce yourselves, the organisation, and how you work with social work students.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Anna Hearn.
I'm Kathleen.
So I've been supervising social work students for about the last 10 years, and about the last 5 as part of Barnardo's South Coast, based at Warrawong. Our office has a number of programs within it. So we have the family support program, the temporary family care program, kinship care, kids time, and the Bundley community centre. So we offer student placements across all of those programs. And I'll probably say myself and Kathleen take a lead in aspects of running those social work placements and students.
Like I said, I'm Kathleen. I've been a supervisor for students for the past 3 years. It's something that I really enjoy in my work. I'm part of the family support team that is run by Anna. She sums it up perfectly. We have many different types of placements around our office. And we really make a point to, regardless of what team a student is in, to kind of get all the students together at once. So it really creates that peer learning, and that you can kind of see the other aspects of the work, even though you might be in family support or TFC.
Great, thank you both. Michelle, Would you respond to that question as well? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay, first general question. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Fraser. I'm the manager of the Wollongong West Street Centre. Quite a lot of you would know about us, but if you don't, we're a not-for-profit, primarily government-funded child sexual assault counselling and community centre. We're a very small little organisation that had its 40th anniversary this year, and our main focus is therapeutic work with children, families, and women, young people who have experienced child sexual assault. With students, I guess we're a very small. We've recently got funding enhancements as well to pilot a project that explores how to build restorative justice into the service as a kind of a part of service delivery that meets the needs of the majority of people who don't actually have a criminal justice response in relation to child sexual assault. So it's a really interesting time in our service, and our students, which we've been having for about, 10 or 12 years, ever since the program started here, they get immersed into all of the functionings of the service, essentially. They don't do counselling as such, but they learn about particularly how the community development approach and how we operate as a therapeutic community, which is a lot different from a range of other child sexual assault counselling services and New South Wales health counselling services. They get to, really get immersed in that. And the only other thing I would say is that we've worked out over time that having 2 students, even in a small organisation, is actually a really good way to build in support for the students, because they can actually support each other in the process. So I'll leave it at that at this point.
Thanks, Michelle. Cindy, would you please introduce yourself and what you offer social work students?
Hi. Hi everyone, and those of you I know. I'm on my phone, so if it's not great, just let me know, yell out. I am a social worker and the senior prenatal caseworker across the district, and also the pregnancy family conferencing coordinator. I've had students for probably the last 4 years. Prior to that, we had a bit of a dry spell on students. I don't know what happened, but we didn't have many social workers across the floor in the Shellhaven, and they were getting a few through the Illawarra, through Wollongong and Shellharbour, but not many. But DCJ created the student development program, and so that was a catalyst for the introduction to a lot more students across the Illawarra, Shellhaven within DCJ. And when they developed the student development program, because lots of other services had graduate programs and we didn't have one, so we weren't seeing that flow through and we weren't getting the students through. But when they developed the student development program, we seemed to have a much better flow. So we got students through, and they also developed program guides around that. So, I mean, I guess I can probably talk to what that sort of looks like and how that's guided supervision for me. I think I've had 7 students now in the last 3 years, so maybe 8 in 4 years. And I've had 5 students come back to work with us.
Great, thanks, Cindy. Okay, Kate at Liverpool Hospital.
Hi, I'm Kate, as mentioned, from Liverpool Hospital, which is a major trauma hospital in southwest Sydney. I'm acting in the educator role for a 12-month secondment. I love it, but my background is in women and children's health. I guess given the nature of being a large hospital, we're usually able to facilitate a number of students, which allows us to have our Wednesday peer program, which is where our students together, I think as Michelle was saying, the benefit of having students to support each other. I'm very fortunate at the moment to have 12 students, and we meet not me personally, across the hospital, we have 12 students. And yeah, we have the ability to meet every Wednesday morning where they're introduced to different areas of health, allowed time for peer support, peer supervision, and different education programs across that Wednesday morning.
Great, thanks. Thank you for that, Kate. So we're going to have the panel questions now. We've got some of them here. The first question relates to, before students even start on placement, what do you need to prepare both yourself and the organisation for, particularly around the setup of supervision and other supports for students? So, yeah, what are the main considerations and how do you respond to those? Maybe you could start with Anna and Kathleen.
We like to get students in prior to them commencing placement as a pre-interview, really to kind of gauge their experience level, their expectations, to kind of set our expectations as well. Some of that are the groundwork of the background of processing for what Barnardo's requires for them to do pre-starting their placement, working with the children's checks, all of those kind of things prior. But I do find that pre-interview is really useful, and we look at matching in that space as well, matching the right supervisor, and also looking at what kind of our initial expectations are going to be. If they've had some experience with children and families in the past, then great, they kind of be a bit readier to hit the ground running. If they're coming in very green, then our expectations are going to be different.
And I think when Anna and I are having those conversations after the interviews, to make sure that we're matching the students based on our strengths as well. It's been such a good support, I think, for us getting the students ready. And during our interview, we make it clear that we do these supervision sessions, and it's a space for you guys to kind of like talk about how placement is going. It's quite a gentle approach, I think, that we use in the initial stages.
We also find that it alleviates some of their nerves at the beginning of placement when they've already met us in person, seen the space that they're going to be having their placement. It takes away some of that initial question marks for them walking through the door.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Just a reminder to people, if you're not speaking, to be on mute so we can eliminate background noise. Thanks. Michelle, would you be able to let us know how West Street prepares for students?
I think time and space are two fundamental factors that I think about, and at the moment we're not actually, we have chosen not to have students this particular second half of the year because we've grown, and physically we actually need space. I mean, we need to give students the respect of a space that that they can inhabit, and sometimes organisations can't do that. I've certainly worked in quite a number of organisations that have struggled around physical space, and I guess one of the things that I've done more recently as the organisations expanded is kind of recruit for more social workers, because the space to actually help students to, reflect and learn on my time has been, and this organisation historically didn't have a lot of social workers on board, although that's changed quite significantly, has been important. And the other thing I think is ensuring that, that you've got a generosity of the staff to actually participate in sharing information and learning with the students, and making sure that you include them in lots of activities that, and so you do need a sort of an orientation around that for other staff in the service. Depends on if it's a big or a small organisation. I'm just talking from this particular perspective. And the other thing is because of the nature of the issues that we deal with, always having to be prepared for the inevitability, I guess, of or possibility and sometimes inevitability of people having a reaction or response to the nature of the issues such as child sexual assault. Lots of our students will have their own lived experience or family experiences, and I often get disclosures as people get more trusting of me around the things that they're grappling with in their lives, or a reflection on something that's happened in relation to this, these very prevalent social issues that we're all dealing with. So I guess that's important too, to be prepared that this is personal as well.
Great, thanks for that, Michelle. Cindy, what would you say would be the thing to consider with preparation?
We probably have a bit of a different process because generally the manager casework contacts a student and brings them in or talks to them, has that initial interview. Then there's the supervisor, who is generally a manager casework, and then I will do the social work supervision. But and then there's obviously the administrational side of it. So there's sort of a four parts to that initial preparation that occurs for us. And I try and meet and greet if I'm going to be the social work supervisor. I generally try to meet and greet them on their first day too, and bring them in. But I find that it actually works quite well when I'm the social work supervisor and someone else is actually the supervisor, delegating tasks and things, because it allows a level of debrief. But the preparation just tends to flow, but it's sort of a stepped process for us.
Okay, great. Thanks, Cindy. Kate, with all of those students, how do you prepare for that many?
Look, we make sure that all of our social workers that are taking on a student have done our training program, and it's part of our policy at the moment that our social workers are prepared for what their each responsibilities are within taking a student. I think it was mentioned before interviews. I think it's a really important pre-process to especially set that expectation. Students hear they're getting a hospital placement, they get very excited. It may be a non-clinical placement, it may be a research or a project placement. So just setting that expectation. What are they going to see? Again, talking about their own lived experience. Are they going to be on a trauma ward? Are they going to be in a women and children's space? What is it that we're sort of looking at? And I guess we have a lot of policies in health as well, making sure that they're health compliant. And there's a lot of that sort of admin back work around whether they're compliant. And we also send students training that they get to do before they come. So again, another health requirement for them to complete that training before they actually even present for placement. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Kate. So I've got another question here that's more about what the essential aspects are of a supervisor relationship. So setting up the relationship, establishing it, distinguishing it from other kinds of relationships, but also how do you set up the reflective experiences within that supervision for students? What kind of opportunities do they have? Anna and Kathleen?
I think how we establish that relationship is I think our approach as a whole here within the Bernardo South Coast is that we try to be approachable. We have an open door policy, and that there is a real wraparound support. So when you're a part of a team, like the team take responsibility for you as well as us as supervisors. So that they feel that there's people that they can approach kind of indirectly and directly if there's issues. And I think what's important for building that supervisor relationship is time. Giving the student time, allowing time for that relationship to build, and trust. And I think that starts with that initial conversation and expectations, because that's where they know what's going to be expected of you as the supervisor, and really holding yourself accountable, that you meet the needs of the student.
Yeah, and I guess for me, because I am a direct caseworker as well as a supervisor, it's an interesting position to be in. I make it clear that you can ask me a question at any time. You just pop your head over there, usually they're sitting across from me. Ask questions, please. And then we will have our separate supervision to start to unpack things. So I try to make it really, really clear that you don't have to wait until we have that supervision weekly to kind of discuss what's going on for you or wanting to unpack what's happening around you. And I feel like that builds a really nice caring relationship between myself and the student, that they are able to just kind of come and knock on my metaphorical door and ask me any type of questions. And I try to make it really clear that, students are in the best position possible to learn, right? It's a great opportunity to make mistakes and to ask these questions, because that's the space that you're in. So like really utilize it. And I think that kind of takes the edge off a little bit to try and be like a perfect student. But knowing that, a lot of the time they're coming in green. And so just that expectation setting has really helped.
Yes. And Kathleen also created a performer for our student supervisions, which really prompts the student to know what to expect from the supervision, particularly for our first year students that may never have been supervised previously. It prompts that conversation for them to think about an instance that they want to discuss, to reflect on that instance, and also pull it back to the goals that they're working on, because we find that also helps them track towards their mid-placement. So those little aspects of that preparation, I think, really guide building that supervision relationship.
And that reflective space in particular, especially with the pro forma, and getting them to link it to, the standards, your goal, and theories, because we know it's a massive thing for your mid-placement and end-of-placement writing. It's always drawing it back to your standards and your theories. So that's what we've found quite helpful for our supervision.
Great, thank you. Michelle?
I'm wondering what I can add. there's lots that has been said. I guess the only thing, one of the things that happens for me, I think, is that if you're talking about reflective practice, I guess that you need to model that as well. And I think in the organisations we work in, often things are pretty chaotic and busy, and so I because we're a small team, unless there's something kind of quite sensitive going on, we actually get our students to be part of our team meeting, because we are a reflective team and we do debate and discuss things, and we do, disagree at times. And I think one of the things that our students often talk about is that they really enjoy participating in respectful conversations around difference, and how we resolve kind of questions around, dilemmas, I guess, and how we link it to our values, because we are a very values-driven organisation. And, I've personally worked in New South Wales Health a lot, and, the university sector and all of that. And I think that how we actually do things is really, people need to observe social workers and others in the sector actually doing what we're talking about. And so I think that's the particular angle I would like to contribute to this question.
Thanks, Michelle. Cindy, do you have anything to add to that? Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, it's hard with the phone.
I have very similar sort of things to what's been said, really, but I have a open door policy always with students, so they can come at any time that they need to reflect or talk about something that's happened. One thing I do is log in my Outlook calendar between the two of us and make sure that we've always got time put aside for the two of us. So really regular time for that supervision. I encourage them to go to all the group supervisions they possibly can to get a different idea of how people think and the different practice approaches that they'll see, different ideologies that occur in the room. And so there's that group supervision, talk to their peers because there's two streams for us. You're either student development program or non-student development program. If you're in the student development program at DCJ, you'll also have an additional supervision with that program. So they get quite a lot of reflective opportunities there as well with their peers, people in different DCJ offices getting different experiences. And the other thing is that we only take fourth year students. So often I get them when we first meet to talk about their previous placement and what they learnt from that placement and then what their expectation is for this placement. So what did or didn't occur that we could possibly improve on, and I let them take the lead on that too. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Cindy. Kate, with managing all of those numerous students with all the numerous relationships going on at the same time.
Look, I think, yeah, our students get a lot of supervision. I think, like Cindy was saying, you sort of end up in the situation where they're supervised by different people for different functions of their supervision. So their immediate supervisor, who's got them on their particular ward, is doing that sort of one-to-one supervision. In my case, with my student, I ask her to send me an agenda, and if she doesn't send me agenda, we do some Gibbs reflective practice. If I know one of her curly cases has come up, or we do some kit model and unpack some theory in that space. So it is up to her if there's things she wants to bring. Outside of that, with my own student, I have hallway supervision, so things that come up on the way, they come up and we talk about them as we need to. And then, yeah, the peer supervision space. So on Wednesday, we have our usually two presentations in the morning, and then towards lunchtime, we have a peer supervision session where we're doing peer supervision between the 12 students, which is, again, a really functional space for them to be in. I think the other thing that I do as well is set them up with, for my own students, who's their next person they go to. If they have their supervisor, they're not getting the support they need. Is it me? Often it's me. Who are their team leaders? Making sure they know who their people are within the organisation that they can also reach out to if they're feeling a bit unsupported.
Yeah. So I'm kind of getting from all of those responses that, the one-on-one supervision is important, but there's also multiple potential supervision relationships and opportunities to reflect, within the broader team, which sounds like it's important to all of you. When it comes to, the student as an individual, how do you all respond to the different learning styles and capabilities of students? Is there anything that you've learned, your acquired wisdom on how you can adapt to that or respond to that in some way, or is that sometimes challenging? Anna and Kathleen, you want to start that one?
I think I just straight up ask, what's your learning style? Like I always present the performer as a tool to use within our supervision, but acknowledging some people don't work in that way. Some people don't like the structure, and some people do like that structure. So I just find just being really upfront and asking, how do you learn? How do you operate? How do you retain information? Do you require lots of breaks? Like, what are your needs in this space that I can help support so that you can get the best possible experience within your supervision?
Yeah, we also have a little form if they're not sure what their learning style is that I've used with my own team to help them think and prompt some of that, of like, how do I learn best? And actually, I think it surprised us all when we did that form. We came out with a different answer than what we would have thought. But also being adaptable and how they think that might be at the beginning of placement might change along the way, and that's really fine too. You know, sometimes being out of the office for supervision, we definitely find that beneficial between like team leader and caseworker. Being grounding, being like, you know, in nature might sometimes be you know, a better place, a better function space for supervision where it's allowed, like in terms of time and those kind of things. So
yeah. And I think sometimes, you know, you might not know what your learning style is, and it's just something to explore whilst we're in, you know, in supervision together. It could be, you know, like, oh, I saw that you responded really well to looking like having it modeled, like an action modeled before doing it yourself, or, you know, you seem really keen to just kind of get in and do it and then reflect afterwards. So yeah, it just kind of takes a lot of observation, I think, from us as supervisors, but yeah, and then using that reflective space of supervision to kind of unpack it for them. Yeah.
And I think also using the experience you have of supervising other people and modeling that, of being like, you know, without breaking anybody else's confidentiality, being, you know, Kathleen likes it this way, someone else likes it this way, so that they don't feel like they have to fit in a box.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Michelle?
I guess the question's got me thinking at a few different levels, and one of the things that I'm thinking about is that our students, while we get them to do projects, they don't do any kind of direct service delivery unless it's possibly related to a bit of case management. And one of the challenges I find, so I'll talk about that, is that I guess that the kind of learning styles, I don't know if it's, look, I'm not sure if it's an orientation or a learning style, but sometimes students want to do, they really, really want to do stuff that, that in a sense they're not prepared for. And you know, obviously our style is to do no harm. And so I'm sort of thinking about some tricky situations where trying to actually navigate how to support students to do things while also doing them at the capability and the knowledge and the skills that they have. Because, you know, for example, you know, our version of trauma-informed or trauma whatever practice is, you know, is that we have a long-term model, and we make sure that that people are very skilled in that model. So in order to actually do any kind of therapeutic work. So I think part of it is also about preparing students for that. And maybe I haven't always done that the best way, but also kind of also unpacking with the students how we slow down the work and how we actually are giving them an opportunity to learn by observing, as well as and usually the relationship between myself or other staff and the students evolves over the course of it always evolves, and so I think that kind of navigating the tension that is that they're a student, not a practitioner, and naming it and articulating it and having conversations about that is always important too.
Thanks, Michelle. Cindy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that was a good comment, that sometimes we do have to be quite honest with students that they are still students in that space. They haven't really had any big problems with that. And again, I agree that I just ask them what works well for them, and we have to include physical environment too in that. You know, I remember I had a student who had experienced some critical incidents within her first weeks of her placement. And for us, the best situation was creating the right physical environment to talk about that in supervision. And that was, you know, bean bags on the floor. And that's where she felt most comfortable. Let's talk about it and unpack it there. And Yeah, and capabilities. I tend to find students come in with this, I can't fail, this sort of mentality. They've got this real, I need to pass, I need to get this done, and they're stuck in that student mode, which they are students. But I like to take that away a little bit and just say, try and bring it back to every every opportunity, everything they experience is an opportunity to go back to their journaling, and make light of it and really reflect on it, and and learn from it. Yeah, they come with a set of capabilities and they go away with a complete different set of tools.
Great, thanks, Cindy. Kate?
Yeah, look, I think, again, understanding the learning style. Having said that, I've had a student that told me that he learns by doing. However, he never put his pen down, and I think he very much learnt by writing. And yeah, I think maybe they have an idea of the kind of learner they are, but it's not always necessary what I'm seeing in practice. I guess being aware, I think, was mentioned as well, what's impacting their learning, what environment they're in, what previous experience they already bring. When I'm working with a student that I am not ready for them to go on practice, I still will engage with role plays with them, just to give them a bit of an idea of what it might look like, obviously still allowing them to shadow, but maybe if I'm not quite confident, I'll look at that role play space. I guess one of the big challenges I have having a lot of students sitting in one space is that they might all start at the same time, and one patient will be off seeing patients very quickly and another student won't be off seeing patients. So it's talking about, again, resetting those expectations and understanding that if all of my patients have child protection concerns, you may not be seeing those patients for a long time. If you work on a surgical ward and someone's, going to be sliced up and sent home very quickly, it's a different level of risk that student's sitting with. Again, everybody comes in with different skills, different backgrounds. So just resetting those expectations. And I guess for me personally, I'm not going to talk about the cake model with Mim in the room, but I do go back to that a lot when I'm, sort of struggling and wanting to reflect on my own supervision and how I'm supporting students. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. Great. Thanks, Kate. I think we've had a couple of questions come through the chat that we can invite our panelists to respond to. We've got a question directly in relation to what you said, Kate, about the model.
I can pop the article in the chat if you like.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's okay.
What it blushing, is. Mim, I can't.
No. It's a model about scaffolding learning. So it uses the analogy of a cake and a slice of cake within a larger cake, and it looks at sort of moving a student through layers and levels of learning as the placement progresses. So and sort of gives a pro forma for how to do that. So I can put it in the chat, and then you can download it if it's helpful.
Thank you.
I think we've also had some interest in some of the other tools and templates that have been mentioned already. So I don't know if our panelists might like to share those with the people here today. We can get it out with the register. I'm not sure how we'll do it, but we can share it if people are happy to share those kind of resources. So Janet, what have we got there in terms of questions coming up?
So I think there's a question from Lindsay, and she's asking, how do agencies respond to plateaus in student learning? So obviously when they start, maybe they're quite motivated and as the placement progresses, it kind of fluctuates. And so how do agencies or field educators kind of manage those kind of fluctuations in the learning while students are on placement?
Good question. Well, who would like to answer that?
Well, I guess I'd like to say I would feed it back to the person. I would actually just do a direct conversation with the student about things that I observe. And I think that, that's part of the honesty and integrity of the supervisory process. I don't know if other people have more kind of formalised mechanisms, but or processes around that. But yeah, that's my comment.
I'll just add that we usually expect a mid-placement plateau. We find that students get midway through their placement and they're a little bit exhausted and they've got a chunk to go, and we just add some normalcy to that. We acknowledge it, we reflect it, but our expectations don't change.
Yeah, and it's just kind of conversation with the student around, like, is there certain aspects of the work that's causing a plateau? Is it just it's a hard slog?
Yeah,
Placement's hard. And I think we're quite fortunate in the way that we do have lots of different teams and we do lots of different things. So it might be, you know, talking to another team manager and being like, hey, can our student jump in on this, just to kind of like spice up the
have some variety.
Yeah.
Okay, Cindy or Kate, do you want to add to that?
I would say very much we do the same sort of thing. When it plateaus, I guess for me, reflecting back on your learning goals, where are we up to? What else do we need to do? But also, yeah, the opportunity to shadow other social workers in the hospital is something that's, yeah, very easy to do. Obviously not always in the area that they're always interested in, because there's not necessarily as many social workers. But yeah, a lot of my students spend time shadowing in different areas just to change it up a little bit. Yeah.
And I feel a bit the same. It's that getting that variety of experience across their placement is what helps with that. You know, sometimes they're in on the face-to-face work, and sometimes it's more administrational type tasks, but making sure that there's variety and they're not being dumped with just administrational tasks. And me as the social work supervisor, going back to their supervisor and having those conversations, if that's what continues to come up, you know, around reflecting and in our own supervision, that we go back. We go back to that supervisor and we say, you've got a social work student who's here to learn. What other things can we do? What can we put in place? Yeah.
Great, thank you. Jana, there are any other questions that have come up?
Yes, I think we've got two more questions. So there's one question from Emmanuel, and he's asking the panelists to share any arrangements or experiences that they have with students who might have some special learning needs or have, you know, access plans, or who might need some adjustments within the placement. Like, how do you manage that, and what are some of the things that you do to cater for students with different needs?
I think I remember Michelle having that conversation about particularly international students, some experiences with West Street, with some particular special needs that they have.
Well, I mean, Jan and I were talking about even just the issue of international students being quite vulnerable, or some of them, not all of them. I'm not going to kind of generalise, but you know, we sell them a product. The university, you know, is giving them an education, and a lot of international students are in the position of wanting to stay in Australia, and they have all sorts of complex circumstances. And I've certainly helped my students to navigate some things, and also some, you know, sort of exploitative situations as well. And I don't think we actually talk about this very much, that, you know, that the reality for international students is that they're not only navigating a completely different cultural set of circumstances, you know, they don't know the services sector from the position of a consumer. And, you know, like consumer being, you know, like, you know, I might have used Centrelink myself at some point. And then on top of that, they're also the layers of, you know, the circumstances which bring them to Australia, and Australia being a place where many of them want to stay. So I guess it raises something that isn't particularly easy, you know, for us to deal with.
Thanks, Michelle. And any other of the panelists want to respond to the, you know, particular special needs, access issues, you know, any kind of extra support students might require?
Yeah, I think if we're talking about international students in particular, you know, because language is quite a barrier. Some of the students that I am working with, And it all just comes back down to the conversations that you have with your students. Like if you're really open and honest around like learning needs and, you know, they mentioned that they have access plans. I think it's just being able to have that conversation with them. People generally know what their needs are. And it's just being, I think, receptive as supervisors to see like, okay, this is their need. How do we make that fit within our organization? So I think that's just, yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've definitely had some complex students that have needed some additional support for a variety of reasons and things that weren't necessarily able to be identifiable at the beginning of placement, situational things that have occurred. And I think that's probably where it being a social work placement is a better thing than anything, because you're surrounded by social workers that are going to guide you through those situations, and just being supportive as you would for any member of the team or anything, and then going back to the uni if you have any worries about their well-being.
Cindy or Kate, have you got anything to add to that? No?
Probably just
Oh,
mirror
yes.
probably just mirror what they said is, talk to the student. I think the placement matching at the beginning is helpful in regards to a student not wanting to feel like they're not capable or that they're going to be disadvantaged in their placement. So I think placement matching is quite helpful. Yeah. And then just supporting them in whatever they need. I guess that's like the girl said, that's the bonus of being in a social work placement surrounded by social workers.
I would just be echoing all of those sorts of comments.
Great, thank you. Janet, any other questions that come up?
Yeah, so one more question from Tim. So Tim is saying he would love to hear a bit about how use of self and stories are woven into the supervision relationship as a form of modeling. So use of self and stories and how you can help to teach students.
I do this a lot in my supervision, and I guess carefully is the answer for me anyway. Yeah, and making sure that my student understands my expectations of confidentiality around what I'm sharing, especially if I'm being particularly vulnerable, but then also being careful that it's to benefit the student and not to benefit myself. So making sure I'm really reflecting on what am I sharing? Is it important to their learning? And what's becoming oversharing? Is it beneficial for me or the student? In our peer supervision space, I bring one of my cases, and the first time I brought that case, I took it to my own supervision first to make sure I wasn't bringing it for me and that I was bringing it for the students, because it is something that I, of course, would benefit from peer supervision. It was something that was very complex matter for me. It had a lot of ethical and emotional dilemmas attached to it. So yeah, just ensuring that what I'm sharing is valuable for the students. But yeah, I do use myself a lot in those spaces when it's appropriate.
I'm not sure if Tim was asking about use of self in terms of your practice as well, because I guess that at the basis of the conversations I have with students, I'm, myself and my colleagues as well are always sharing stories about the work, and the work, and our relationship to the work and dilemmas that we've had about the work, and also, personal responses to the work, which, I think that's what the last person was alluding to. And I think storytelling is a really important part of, who we are as practitioners, and what we listen to and what we listen for with people we work with. So yeah, it's absolutely integral, and I think that particularly in situations where students can't, do direct work with clients, I think it does create significant opportunities for learning.
I think something we say to all of our students is watch the caseworkers around you and look at the aspects of their casework that you resonate with and how you feel that would apply to your own practice and style. And then also within those supervisions, modeling and talking about the differences in my practice style to Kathleen's practice style, and the you kind of approaching and sharing the ups and downs and of casework is a big part of normalizing the struggles that they might have along the way as caseworkers, because I think if they see that it can affect you as someone with 20 years of experience, then it's okay that sometimes it doesn't feel okay, and really modeling that is a tough job, and some days it's going to feel tough, and that's okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with what Anna said. I love using myself as an example to kind of push through some sort of learning, where it's safe, obviously, and it's contextual, but I think it really kind of helps solidify learning, I guess, for me as a supervisor, using myself as an example of things that I've gone through, particularly if they are, third year students and they need a little bit of support. And
I think it humanizes it, and it makes it safe to kind of make mistakes or not know.
Yeah, because sometimes, obviously there's a power differential between supervisor and student, and I think like Anna said, it kind of humanizes you. It kind of gives them a sense to be like, oh, okay, I can talk about my mistakes and I can unpack this, because that's
learning.
Learn.
Okay. Cindy, did you want to add anything else?
I loved what they just said there, because it does normalize, or it gives them permission to know that what they're thinking and feeling is okay. And I guess one of the ones that I tend to see quite a lot is ethical dilemmas, and that's getting them to watch the way different practitioners or different caseworkers work, and remember that they come from all different backgrounds. So they're not always sitting with a social worker. They might be sitting with someone who has a education background, or they might be sitting with someone who doesn't have a university qualification, or they might be going out and working with someone who just has very different views, doesn't have those same social work ideologies and views and standards. And so they often come back and go, oh, this was a real ethical dilemma for me. And that's where I tend to go, yeah, tell me about it. Let's unpack that. And then I'll give an example of possibly where I've had ethical dilemmas and use those examples to give them permission to be okay with that, to sit in that space.
Great, thanks, Cindy. Is that all the questions we've got, or because I've just got one last one, very quick one, because we do need to wrap up.
Yeah, I think that was the last one, Dan. Yeah.
Okay. I thought it'd be great to finish on a hopeful note, on a positive note. So I just wonder if each of the panelists would just speak to, what are the contributions of students to your organisation? What are the benefits for the organisation as a whole, and for you as a practitioner, of having students?
Fresh eyes and hope, I think. I think we really, really enjoy having students, because it's a fresh set of eyes. It's new perspectives that maybe we haven't thought of. When you're doing the work day in, day out, you do start to get a little bit of tunnel vision, and students are that fresh of breath there to be like, oh yeah, wait, why do I do this? Or why do I approach things in this way? And is there maybe a better way to kind of do it?
And I think it also prompts you to reflect on your practice too and why you're doing it. But sometimes you can get lost in the work. As well as we do rely on students for certain aspects of what we deliver and how we deliver it. You know, when we're running parenting groups, we offer therapeutic childcare support as part of that, and we rely on students to do some of that so that it frees up caseworkers to do casework or deliver groups. And as another set of hands, so that, you know, we might be able to intake more cases at a time because they're doing some of those casework administrative jobs or doing some of that follow-up work. And so it has its benefits, it has its challenges, but we also have had a number of students that we've employed after because we really see the benefit, and even if we haven't been able to offer them at the job at the time, we're sending them the jobs as they come because we'd love to have them back.
Yeah, students are important.
Yeah.
Great. Michelle, did you want to?
Oh, sorry. I get each of them brings their own character, you know, and that's in a small service. You know, that actually adds to the vibrancy of and the energy of the place. People, you know, that all that curiosity and you know, interest and asking questions and making, you know, our students talk about us, that they become part of the team for the time. So it's how shall we do this? And it's, you know, it's delightful. You know, that's most of the time. Occasionally it's not, but most of the time it's delightful.
Delightful, that's great. Kate, Cindy, any last words? Literally last words?
I think I would agree with everyone.
Yeah, me too.
Fresh eyes and hope. I'm loving it.
Love fresh eyes and hope. The other thing that I always get them to do is because I remind them that they have the most currency when it comes to evidence-based practice, because they are currently the students learning what is the newest evidence-based practice. So I always try and encourage them to bring something to maybe group supervision or around what is the latest evidence-based practice, or where does that theory fit with the practice that we're using or maybe not using. And that's another key that the students bring that we tend to forget about.
Great. Kate, anything you want to add to that?
No, just that they help me reflect, they're reaffirming, they're a great future workforce, they've got a new perspective, and they bring the current research.
Great, thanks. Mim, I might hand this back to you to close the session, but it's been a wonderful conversation and great to facilitate. Thank you all for your generosity in what you've shared today.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. What a beautiful, reflective discussion. And I think the moment the student goes from saying you to we, I think means you're doing something right. So that's just incredible to hear everything that everyone said. I've popped in the chat a link to our Midday Muse we did specifically on international students. It is our most watched Midday Muse. So feel free to jump on there if that's an area you're interested in learning more about. Please let us know if there's sessions you'd like us to run on any specific topics into the future. And we hope to see you all again very soon. Our next session will be in October, so watch this space. But take care, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, everybody.